Thank you, candidates. Now we're going to transition to questions from the audience. These questions have not been provided in advance to the candidates, so this will give us a chance to see how they think on their feet a little bit. Your questions may be directed to an individual candidate or to all candidates. In either case, each candidate will get 1 minute to respond. So do we have Spencer or someone who's got a wireless microphone? Okay. And again, I'll remind you that if you have a question that has occurred to you tonight that you'd like to get asked, go see Mr. Spivey over there on that side, and he'll get the gist of your question and kind of get it on the list in a logical place, and time permitting, we'll give you an opportunity to ask it. So, who is our first question?
Texas's debt is hovering around $33 billion, and our spending exceeds our revenues. Per the state constitution, we cannot spend more than 5% on debt service. We're currently at 85% of our maximum debt service levels now. What would you do to ensure that Texas does not become the next California?
And we'll start with Mr. Nichols on this one.
Basically, it goes back to kind of an earlier answer, is that one of the easiest things to me is we're spending money currently on people that are not citizens of our state. We have an awful lot of illegal immigrants here using our school system. It's costing us billions of dollars. We have an enormous amount of illegal aliens even in our prison system. What we need to do is we need to start looking at our border and start securing it. There's 18 ports along the Texas border. Of our 1,200 miles with Mexico, there's 18 ports. We need to get down there. We need to start securing the border. I have no problem, and I'm sure most people have no problem with people coming here legally to work and supporting those people. But people that are here illegally, we need to start cutting those people out of the public funds. Once we do that, we're going to have billions of dollars of savings. Those savings are not going to go to spending and borrowing further. They're going to be reducing the existing debt. So that's what we need to do. We need to start looking at reducing existing debt by cutting spending that is going to people that are not even citizens of this country.
Mr. Dale.
First thing we have to have a legislature that's going to work to reduce spending in general. That's why, for those of you who are not members of the Libertarian Party, it's very important that you consider voting for Libertarians for the state Senate and the state House, as well as for governor and lieutenant governor. We need to start vetoing state spending. We need to start sunsetting state agencies, which will allow us to reduce state spending on those. And we need to look at areas in which we need to eliminate the state role entirely. We need to roll back the state role in education and in other areas as well, including transportation, and reduce state spending. I would like to see a ban, quite frankly, on borrowing money, period, whether it's through bonds or any other way. I would like to see a requirement that the state not spend money that it doesn't actually have.
Well, what you say is true about the financial problems we have in front of us, but with this crisis, there's also an opportunity. The opportunity to say that these programs that we didn't think should ever have been there, we can say we can't afford it. So my solution is we've got to cut spending. And I'm not all that particular about where, because there's so much there's so many things that we do that we don't need to do and we shouldn't do, and it's not good for our economy or our state. We've got to prioritize, but on the things that we really have to do, and I think border enforcement is is a way we maintain our personal sovereignty and state sovereignty. We can cut education. There are tremendous things we can do in education. Illegal aliens, yes, there was a Supreme Court case, Follow the Doe, says you have to pay for, Texas has to pay for illegal aliens, but that was bad lawyering. They didn't even make a claim that there was a cost, that was a problem. We can make that change, we can relitigate that. There's a lot of fat to be cut in education.
Yes. We put a freeze on, kind of like Obama has. Put a freeze. We stop our government spending, and then we start cutting. We take out the hatchet and the scalpel, and we cut it. We get rid of what we do not need. And we don't just stop at illegal immigration. We look at our child protective services, our prison systems, our education system, our welfare systems, our Medicare, everything. We start cutting. My plan is to also put Texas on a consumption revenue-based tax form strictly. No property tax, no corporate tax. Make the lawmakers work on money brought in by the strength of our domestic production at the consumption level. Thank you.
Next question? Here we go.
Yeah, eminent domain abuse is becoming an increasing problem across the nation and in Texas. Several things have been proposed that would exacerbate this problem. What would you as governor do to help protect the rights of landowners in our state?
We start with Mr. Dale on this one.
In my view, the phrase eminent domain abuse is redundant. Okay, I believe that eminent domain is legalized theft. I do not believe that the state government or any local government or the federal government has the moral right to take away property without the property owner's permission. We can't do a whole lot about this federal government right now, but at the state level, we can work for a state constitutional ban on eminent domain, both at the state level and at the local level. And I would work for that.
Well, eminent domain is supposed to be restricted to taking land for public use. I'm not too, that would be a benefit to stick right there with public use, but I'm not a fan of taking it for even public use. We do have a constitutional amendment, a part of our constitution in Texas, that recognizes it, so there'd have to be an amendment to get rid of it altogether. That would be fine with me, but I don't think it's going to happen. What we could do to make it give more protection to property owners, we could pay them. We could pass a law saying you must pay them market value plus 10%. And you have to pay their attorney's fees if they litigate this. And we could, there are things in the law, when you get into a lawsuit over this, there are so many things in favor of the state and against the property owner that they're just up against it. And I will put more protections on the property owner so that they can defend their property and not go bankrupt if they won.
I agree. We amend the Constitution. We outlaw it. No more eminent domain. Let's get rid of it altogether. If somebody wants to buy a piece of property, then they buy the piece of property. And I don't think it has to be set at any certain level. It belongs to that person. It's the seller. He sets the price. If he wants twice what the fair market value is, then whoever's going to buy it has to pay it, or they're not going to sell it. Get rid of it altogether.
Well, I can tell you from having been a legislature with city council in the fastest growing city in the country, eminent domain has a place in economic growth. For example, if we have a freeway that is nearby, the only way you're going to get a neighborhood built is accessing it through private tolls and things like that. You're not going to see any growth happen in those offset areas when tolls are involved. People are going to be congregating around the public areas, so the free roads, if you will. The problem is, again, we already have a system in place. We already have free roads out there. If they were all private, that's one thing. I'm completely against ever taking somebody's property, handing it over to a sports franchise, a shopping center, a plant, things that goes into the private sector. That's completely wrong. Eminent domain should be used for public use only and should be limited to only a couple things, such as roads only. You should also compensate the people fairly and above market, maybe 125%. If they do not absolutely want to sell their property, you have to go through the eminent domain process, then they deserve to go 125% on their property.